Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name is Jim. Thank you for riding along today. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've arrived at our webpage, there are things to do there. You can visit our Boomers General Store. There's a link to our YouTube channel, links to places you can listen to our podcast, a link to Amazon, which puts you right at our book, Got a Job, which you can read part of right there and buy it if you wish. We're going to drown our sorrows in a little local refreshment today. Before I start with this, I just want to bare my soul just a little here. I don't know what's going on. My brain tries to play tricks on me, whatever. About a year and a half ago, I went through something very similar to this. We weren't growing as far as a podcast with people listening. In fact, it had gone down a little. And I tried to figure out if it was me or what at that time. And then all of a sudden, we tripled our audience size and started growing like crazy. And that was very good for about a year and a half. And now all of a sudden, I see numbers going down again. So in my imagination, and you've got to be careful of vain imaginations. They can run away with you if you are not careful. But I try to think, well, maybe it's because I don't tell as many stories as I used to. And as far as stories, I've talked about this before. You only do so many things in your lifetime. Once in a while, a story will come up in my brain, and I'll write it down for a future podcast. My majority of this audience may be baby boomers, but I have listeners from all generations. I can tell that on certain reports I get. Not really by age, but I can kind of see the grouping they're in. Sometimes I wonder if maybe I'm just stale and all this stuff. And looking back at the history of 5+ years now, things go up and down, kind of like the painted ponies go round and round. We're captured on a carousel. I understand that, and I know that I can't just have numbers like maybe the Kelsey brothers. Nobody knows who I am. And I really appreciate everybody that listens to this podcast. And I'm sure we will continue to grow, even though the last couple months have not been really what I wanted. Actually, January was very good. February was just a stinker. I don't know why. Some of my reports show that the time, how many I get during certain hours of the day and night. And one thing I see that was way down was the all-nighters, the people that listen at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my time, may be the middle of the day on the other side of the world, and we get people listening from all over the world. Some countries, there's quite a few. Some countries, I'll get 1 or 2, Never saw one from North Korea or China, and I'm sure that's nothing to do with me. Anyway, I just will probably take this out in editing. That's probably what I'll do. But if I don't, there it is. I threw it out there. Please share this podcast if you enjoy it. I'm paddling as fast as I can go, which is not very fast, by the way. I have no sense of urgency about paddling faster. Okay, let's go. Here we go. Da-da-da. On with the shoe. Water, the very source of life. Years ago, my doc told me to drink more water. Now, he's kind of a skinny guy that jogs and all this stuff. He's probably in his 50s. I remember when I was a kid, some of the doctors be smoking a cigarette, telling you, you got to do this and you can't do that. Well, those days are gone, thank goodness. I trust my doctor. I do. Even though we had butted heads during the COVID thing. As far as drinking more water, I do that. I've got a glass of water sitting in front of me now. I probably drink 6 glasses of water a day. And they're big glasses, they're not small. Sometimes I drink more. It's usually if I had too many sweets or something the day before. I'll try to flush my body out. Water is a very good source of health, I do believe. But I always had a sweet tooth. Most of my favorite drinks growing up were sweet. If I drank milk, it usually was because I was eating cookies or cake or cereal, something sweet along with that milk. Now, some of my favorite meals, I have to drink milk. To this day, I drink a glass of milk with, and it goes back to childhood. Meatloaf's one. I have to have a glass of milk with meatloaf. I used to like chocolate milk in the form of 3 different types, Bosco or Ovaltine. My favorite was Nestle's Quick. They call it Nesquik now. I like chocolate malts. I didn't much care for milkshakes. I liked malts, but that's almost impossible to find these days. I like cherry chocolate malts. I like Coke and Cherry Coke. I like Duffy's Black Cherry Soda. Remember Duffy's Pop? Soda Pop? I like Shasta Cream Soda. Now, I do enjoy cream soda, and a lot of different people make it, but the Shasta I could remember as a kid. I liked root beer, still do. That Lost Trail root beer I am kind of partial to, and I think it's because it comes in a glass bottle, although it's not cheap. Usually drink it on vacation when I'm driving, if I see it. I liked lemonade, limeade, chocolate sodas, root beer floats. Still like those root beer floats. Had one yesterday. Bought some ice cream, some vanilla ice cream I didn't much care for. So I put it in a root beer float, and it was pretty good then. I liked hot chocolate. Still drink a little hot chocolate in the evenings, in the wintertime around here. As I got older, my drinks changed a little. I started liking Perrier, sparkling water. I still like sparkling water, although the only time I drink Perrier again is when I'm on a road trip, in a convenience store, and maybe buy a bottle. Coffee, I learned to drink coffee as a young man. First I drank it with a lot of cream and sugar in it, especially a lot of sugar. Today I drink it black. I drink tea and iced tea, and my iced tea is not sweetened. If I want sweet tea, I'll drink an Arnold Palmer, half lemonade, half iced tea, I like orange juice, apple cider, grape juice, tomato juice, and pineapple juice. When we first moved to this country, I found a store that served hot fudge malts. So I would order a double hot fudge malt. You can still get that stuff like at a drive-in and stuff, but you have to really try to persuade them to put enough hot fudge in it to make it worth your time. Our unusual fact, 60% of the human body is water. We humans need about 11.5 to 15.5 cups of water a day, but you can survive about 3 days without any water. There is the same amount of water in this old world as there was 1,000,000 years ago, or whenever the earth was created. Our song of the week this week is Ripple by the Grateful Dead. It was the B-side of the song Truckin'. This great song was written by Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter. It was on the Dead's album American Beauty, released in 1970. The Grateful Dead didn't play this great song much in concerts. Garcia said it was because it just didn't work in a stadium. It was acoustic. Reach out your hand if your cup be empty. If your cup is full, may it be again. Well, now that I'm an adult, once in a while I would have an adult beverage. I want to speak a little bit about having too much adult beverage in one sitting. I'm not out to glamorize this, not even a little bit. When I was about 15 or 16, we owned that ranch house outside my little hometown. Great big sprawling, big old log house. And the kitchen, it had a table that sat higher than a regular table. And you sat on it with like stools with backs on them. And it was long. It probably held 20 people easily, maybe more. I don't know. It was a long table. One night, I think it was probably during the holidays, My Aunt Connie and I, Connie is 5 months younger than me, we're kind of like brother and sister. We were sitting at that table and all the adults were out in the living room. There's a big fireplace there and I don't know what they were doing. But there was a liquor cabinet in the kitchen. And I knew how to jimmy the lock and get it open. Of course I did. And somehow through Connie's and my bantering back and forth, I took on a bet or a dare or something that I could drink so much rum. Well, this bottle of rum we got out of the liquor cabinet. And so I drank enough that I became stupid drunk. Well, everybody left home and I was kind of acting not myself at all. Next thing I know, I had to run into a bathroom on the downstairs level there and throw my guts out, and I laid on the floor. And the one thing I can remember through all that is my mother, who was as innocent as a little lamb, really, as far as I know. "Jim, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you so sick?" And my dad coming in saying, "He got in the liquor cabinets." Why? The world was spinning out of control. I couldn't do anything except moan, throw up, and lay there. Ay, 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 ay. When I was 18, there was a new 3-2 beer place up towards Lake Town called the Beehive. And one night I got pretty poopy-faced. Can I say poopy-faced? There. But I had met a girl earlier in the evening, and her name was Casey, and she was from Missouri, working up in that resort area for the summer. Very nice and pretty girl. And I left the bar with her. And I've talked about this before, but I was drunk. And I started driving really fast. And what I remember is the car doing 360s in the middle of the highway with Coffee Divide, which was a big hill with a kind of a drop-off right there. And we didn't crash. I don't know why we didn't crash. Long story short, Casey never went out with me again. I'm just glad we didn't kill us. My brother John, he's 3.5 years younger than me. Once I discovered pot and hash and all that stuff, I used to try to get John to smoke some pot with me, get him high. He wouldn't ever have anything to do with that. Well, one time I lived in a town about 10 miles away from our hometown, and John and his girlfriend, who someday would be his wife, came up to visit us, and we started drinking tequila. And of course I got hammered, and so did John and Cindy and everybody around us. I think there were 4 or 5 of us there at the house. And I tried to talk him into staying the night. The whole reason I got him up there drinking tequila was to see if he'd smoke some dope with me. And of course he didn't. But they drove home while they were drunk. John was only probably 16, maybe. A couple days later I talked to them. They said they drove in the ditch for a while, but they didn't crash and they made it home. How irresponsible of me. I was quite the big brother, wasn't I? One time at the Slope, which was a bar up by the ski area, I got drinking beer and probably bourbon whiskey, because that's the only 2 kinds of alcohol I ever really enjoyed, was bourbon whiskey from either Tennessee or Kentucky, or beer. Back then it was Coors. And my little sister was up there. She couldn't have been more than 17 or 18. She was just up at the bar. She's too young to go into the bar. Maybe I was older. Maybe I was like 25 or 26. I bet I was. Anyway, she drove me home in my pickup. Well, I liked some girl that was a friend of hers, and the girl kind of dumped me for some other guy. So I was ranting and raving to my sister about the injustice of it all, and started hitting my dashboard with my fist. Well, we had just gotten the truck, started driving, and it was 30 or 40 below that night. It was a cold, cold night. It gets 50 below up there, and so 30 below was not unusual. Anyway, I broke my dashboard. The plastic that covered the metal, padded dashboard, it all cracked and broke. I had to drive that truck for years, with that as a reminder of how dumb I was that night. That was really the last time I ever got drunk. After we got married, Kim and I. We lived across the street from a church, and Kim started going to church, and I was watching 60 Minutes, and they're interviewing Baryshnikov, you know, the Russian ballet dancer. And he said how he drank vodka every day. You know, he's Russian. Well, so, oh, that sounds good, vodka. So I got into our liquor cabinet, and we had a liquor cabinet there in our house, little house across the street from the church. And I took a big drink of that vodka, and it was enough to gag a maggot. Well, I was already feeling guilty about sending my wife to church without me going with her. I looked at that stuff in that liquor cabinet, and I poured it all down the drain. Kim came home, and there's 15 empty bottles sitting on the kitchen counter. Even her cooking sherry or whatever that stuff was, I poured right down the drain. I didn't drink again for a very long time. Never been drunk since that time I beat up my pickup. I will have a beer once in a while now. Usually it's after I mow in the hot, hot sun. It's kind of refreshing. I never have more than 2. I never have drank a beer in front of my grandchildren out of respect. The respect I didn't show my brother, the respect I didn't show my parents. That respect. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he will not depart from it. I thank God every day that I lived through some of that stuff, and I'm not an alcoholic. If you have struggles with that very thing, if your desire is to get away from it, there are ways. There are ways. You can do all things. Always be kind. It's the very best path you can take in this life. I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.